Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question, which I'm just going to read out for you guys because this is kind of complicated. But he asked, "Hey Jason, I'm reading Mark Ripto's book Practical Programming for Strength Training, which is a book I recommend as mandatory reading before you guys write any of your own programs. If you haven't read that book, don't write your own routines." In the beginning, he talks about the difference between a novice, intermediate, and advanced lifter, and he essentially states that recovery is dependent upon the amount of weight you can lift or your workload relative to your maximum physical potential. Basically, he says that a novice cannot lift weights heavy enough relative to their maximum physical potential to cause prolonged recovery time like an advanced lifter can. He mentions that someone who has been lifting weights consistently for years but has really only been exercising can still be considered a novice and therefore could make noob gains. I know you've covered this in the past, so I was curious on your thoughts about this hypothesis regarding why the difference between training experience levels exists and the prospects of making noob gains for those of us who have merely exercised with weights consistently for years. Thanks. All right, great question. Let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. All right, Mark is right. Now, the rank novice falls into a slightly different category. So let me cover the rank novice for just a moment, then we'll discuss the novice, intermediate, and the advanced lifter there in regards to this. The rank novice can actually train beyond their recovery ability, and the reason is the rank novice, someone who's been completely sedentary and doesn't exercise at all, when they go to the gym, their workloads are usually so intense compared to what they're normally used to that they actually spend all of their time recovering, and their body doesn't have anything left for muscle growth till they get used to actually exercising. So for a few weeks, they don't gain any muscle. They make some neural adaptations to training, but they're so busy recovering and almost basically overreaching that their body doesn't grow from it. Then after a few weeks, their body gets used to actually exercising and working out. Then they go into the true novice phase. But that first 2 to 4 weeks, absolutely not. Now, I agree with Mark here on this one, that your strength level dictates how, versus your body weight, which is generally how they're broken up. So it's not strength to weight ratios, but there's actual charts on this that a lot of experts refer to and that are listed in that book, but you can also find them online. But your strength level determines whether you are a novice, intermediate, or advanced lifter. All right, this isn't even debated that heavily in most circles anymore. The reason that is there, it has to do with how well you progress and what you need for recovery times. And essentially, he is right. That's why you can do really high volume training programs like my novice training program as a novice lifter. The reason is because you're weak. Someone who can only squat 200 pounds, who can only bench 150 pounds is weak. Because if they're a male, they're weak. If they're a female, that's doing pretty damn good. But for a male, that's weak. They're not strong enough to push their body into overreaching the majority of the time unless they just go stupid crazy on the volume. All right? You can push them with very high amounts of total workloads. Because they're weak, they can't do that much tonnage on a single set of squats, a single set of deadlifts, a single set of overhead press. They're not strong enough to. Therefore, a few sets of any of these exercises, even if they're pushing themselves relatively hard, is a low tonnage. I mean, seriously, 150 pound squats for 5x5? Come on, that's nothing. It's not hard to recover from that. That's what, you're moving 750 pounds each set? 150 times 5? But you're using your whole body to do it. That's not that impressive. And your body knows that's not that impressive. From a recovery perspective, from the total tonnage that has been put upon your body, that is not just your musculature, but your bones, your connective tissue, your nervous system, all of that has had to handle, that's not that much tonnage. It really isn't. When you compare that to someone who comes in who's twice as strong, all right, they do 300 pounds for 5 sets of 5. They've done twice as much tonnage. They've subjected their body to twice as much work. People tend to think, oftentimes, more novice lifters tend to think in those terms that as they just get stronger, they're going to be able to do the same reps, sets, volume, everything else with the heavier weight and just recover from it just fine at the same frequency. The truth is you won't. Your organs, your bones, your nervous system are very much fatigued by the total tonnages and workloads that you subject them to. All right? In order to get the same level of fatigue, you would need to do twice as much volume if you were half the strength. Meaning, the person who's doing his work sets of 5 with 150 pounds on the squats versus a guy who's doing 300 would probably need to do twice as many sets to subject himself to the same tonnage. Therefore, his recovery is going to be different. His adaptation is going to be different. The more advanced you are, it means the stronger you are, the more tonnage you are capable of moving in a given time frame in a workout. The more work that you are capable of generating, your work capacity is higher because you're stronger, but that also means your ability to beat your body up is higher as well. And again, your body will only handle so much work. All right, you can only handle so much of the little micro cracking in your bones. Your connective tissue can only handle so many micro tears before they start getting inflamed and they eventually want to give out. Your peripheral nervous system will only generate so much force repeatedly over and over through your musculature before it says, okay, that's enough, I'm not firing these muscle fibers anymore. That's what's going on, and people have to understand that from that perspective. So there's a reason I tell people when you reach a certain strength level, my novice program will bury you. It gets harder as you go. If you try to run that same program to full length, it seems a little hard to recover from at first. Once you adapt, people who run it for 3 or 4 weeks and they suddenly start excelling, and for several months they just excel, then they start hitting stalls and they have to do those weight resets over and over. And when they get close to the limits of what I say the program can handle in terms of the weights that they can use on the lifts, people start overtraining on it. If they stick the program out too long trying to do the same progression and workloads they did when they were half or a third of the strength when they started the program, they start overtraining. It's too much progression, too much workload, too much tonnage for someone who's strong enough to lift intermediate weights to do. They will overtrain. The same thing with an appropriate intermediate program. You go run Bill Starr's Mad Cows. All right, you go run Bill Starr's Mad Cows. Use his progression in there when you're an advanced lifter. Go do that after you can already squat over 400 pounds. And let's say you're at 200-ish. You're 200-ish pounds and you can squat 400. You can deadlift 500. Bench press 300. You go try to run Mad Cows for the next 6 months to a year and see if you don't overtrain. See if his progression patterns don't bury you into the ground. Fantastic intermediate program, but someone who starts to get too advanced, the workloads are too aggressive, the tonnage is too aggressive, the progression rates are too aggressive. So that is the whole point. It's that you are capable of so much work capacity as you get stronger that you can't do the same sort of workloads that you did when you were weaker and just plug in a different percentage of your 1 rep max and expect to do the same workouts and progress the same. You won't, you'll bury yourself. And by that same token, someone who's a novice lifter, and let's discuss specifically the novice like you described there, someone who just exercised. Basically, as Martin Berkham would say, someone who came to the gym and had a bad case of fuck-around-itis for 3 years. They're still a noob. They're still novice level strength numbers. They can't rep 225 pounds on the bench. They can't squat 315 for reps. They're a noob. Doesn't matter if they've been training for 3 years, 5 years. They had fuck-around-itis. Those people, if they go to an advanced program, will continue to have fuck-around-itis because they're going to do less work. They're going to progress slow. Oh, I'm going to add weight to the bar once every 6 weeks. You see the point there? A guy who can only squat 250 pounds, who only adds weight to the bar once every 6 weeks or every 12 weeks, he adds 2.5 pounds to it. In another year, he's still going to be a weak pussy. But that's what an advanced program would have him do. That's a program for an advanced lifter. An advanced lifter goes, man, if I could put 5 to 10 pounds on my squat this year, that would be fucking amazing. That's my goal. But someone who only squats 200, 250 pounds, that's like a 1 week goal. That's a 2 week goal, maybe a 3 week goal. That's not a 1 year goal. So if you're a novice and you try to run an advanced lifter program, your progression is going to be too slow. Your total workloads and tonnages are going to be too slow. You're going to progress really, really slowly. So yeah, that person, even though they've been in the gym for years, they are still a noob. And if they were to run a proper novice style program, or even consider a really early intermediate program, they're going to progress a lot faster. They're going to make a lot more gains, and they're going to end up a lot bigger and stronger. They might actually finish out their noob gains. Those are the guys who might be able to come in and put on 5, 8, maybe even 10 pounds of muscle in a solid year of work, even though they've been training for years. And that's usually what you see. I get some of that too. I get guys who said, I've been training years and I ran whatever program of yours and I made amazing gains. Why? Because they had been running silly bro splits or something they got out of Flex magazine for a couple of years. And even though they had a couple of years of training under their belt, all of a sudden they finally finished out their noob phase. They finished out their noob gains. And so in 6 months they made substantial gains. They put on 6, 7 pounds of muscle. They put 120 pounds on their squat and deadlift. They put 50 pounds on their bench press for their work sets, not their maxes, what they do for reps. And so yeah, they blew up, they grew, they grew. But it's because those people, as you put it, were just exercising. But I really like the term that Martin throws out there, fuck around-itis. Because the truth is, a lot of people are doing a lot of exercising and training in the gym that really isn't even helping them towards their goals. It's just coming in and playing. You know, they're doing endless sets of high rep isolation movements when they don't have the basics built. For most people, even people who are only training for health and fitness, coming in and doing big compound movements and getting strong on those is actually going to give them the best results. Even people like, I just want to lose fat. I just don't want to get osteoporosis. I don't want to get diabetes. That would actually help those people more than coming in and doing a bunch of fluff and pump. So yeah, answering the question, you're absolutely right. And if Mark wrote that in the book, I don't recall if he did, he may have, then he would be right on that too. I absolutely agree. That yeah, people who've had a case of fuck around-itis for several years in the gym, if they're still below the intermediate numbers on their lifts, when you look at those charts, then yeah, they need to run a novice program. They will actually benefit from a novice program, and they will be able to finish out their noob gains, which is really what their goal should be at that point if they're actually serious about their training. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.